against Barbara Buono. Like you said, it was really just a matter of how much is he going to win by,
Right.
and what is his speech going to sound like after he wins.
Well, and all anybody could talk about yesterday was 2016
Yep.
and what this means
And
for him.
I will say, that speech, I've never seen a more blatant presidential campaign kickoff
Yeah.
than I saw with
really
with
serious
his
undertones.
speech. Oh, yeah. Big time.
Well, what do you think that means? I mean, what do you see? Do you see him getting the nod for?
I don't know.
too
I
soon?
wish I could tell you the inner workings of the Republican Party's mind.
That's true. The Republican
But
Party could be wildly
I'm
different.
so confused.
by that
what
time.
do they want? Do they want a crazy, hardline conservative Tea Partier, or do
Well,
they? It's ridiculous, and I'm having trouble deciding or figuring out. Really, is it possible for Christie to get the nod?
Well,
from
and the
this party?
electorate is really, really tired of their own party,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
Most of them. Are they? We'll find out next year. I mean, 2 years.
In the midterms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, next year. Yeah, next year
Next
midterms.
year midterms. I was saying when we were off the air, I was watching Virginia, and it was like
McAuliffe.
that switched right at the end. I mean, they couldn't call that until the bitter end.
Right.
At like 85% of the vote had come in, and they still couldn't call it, which was just crazy to me. So that was Virginia, McAuliffe.
Yeah, it was a
over,
close one.
That was close. And what else do we have? Alabama also got some
Alabama.
coverage. We were speaking about the Tea Party.
Tea Party is lost in the runoff
Yeah.
to the, I guess, normal Republican.
Right. So it's all very interesting. And then I didn't watch at all anything about the Westchester County exec race.
Nome.
But you were sad that Noam Bramson
Nome.
lost.
I'm with Nome. I'm not. But I am with Nome.
Were you not enthused at either candidate?
No, I wasn't. But oh, sorry about that. Lesser of two evils. Nome over Rob Astorino, who is a closet Tea Partier. Kind of scares me.
No, their whole shtick was that Noam's too expensive. That his whole thing was about lower taxes, and that's what people were most upset about, and that's really what.
Yeah, that's what
you think
Astorino
turns
won with.
people
Yeah.
out. Well, it was interesting because all I had heard was Westchester, as far as registered voters, is 2-1, Democrats to Republicans. So you'd think if people showed up, that it would have been.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Bramson.
Westchester and New York City and Bill de Blasio last night is pretty.
Which we were both supportive of.
Very. I think it just. I mean, New York is just a very democratic state.
New York's a blue state?
No. But I think, I'm interested by the Rob Astorino pick. Now, I haven't lived in Westchester for very long. This is only my third year, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd even call myself living here as much as, boarding here for a few months out of the year.
Residing here, yeah.
But it's weird that there's little factions of every state that,
All right, now let me ask you something. Let's go back
different.
to being a blue state. Does that dissuade you at all from wanting to vote? Let's talk, especially in the midterms and especially in 2016. Someone that comes from, now I feel differently because I'm not from here. I come from
You come from a
a
swing
swing
state,
and
which must be fun.
It's more enticing,
Except
absolutely.
you guys can't count.
But we're not getting into Florida's math problem.
Sorry.
Do you feel like your vote doesn't matter because you come from, like, let's say, okay, you lived in California, you lived in New York. Like, what would this mean as opposed to living somewhere like Ohio or Virginia?
I will say I'm a big proponent of no electoral college. I think the electoral college is silly.
Okay.
I understand the positives for it, but I think the negatives outweigh the positives by a good amount. Like
For
what
what
you
I
said,
was just talking about?
disenfranchising voters. However, and I will stick to this until the day I die. There are two things in this country that you have to do.
Okay.
You have to pay taxes, and you have to vote.
That's it?
That's it.
The
That's
only two
all the
things.
country wants from you.
What do you say to people that don't vote,
I
that
think-
aren't even registered to vote?
People that aren't registered to vote, people that don't exercise their right to vote, and people who, on a day-by-day basis, complain about the situation that this country is in, are absolutely ridiculous. The people who are not registered to vote and do not vote are the reason this happens.
Okay.
If you don't do anything to change it, it will stay the same. Change can only happen when everyday people mobilize.
What do you say to young people that aren't informed? Do you think they should be voting? Because I would argue that if you're not informed enough about the candidates or about the issues, you're better off not exercising your right to vote. Because then it just becomes habitual and you're voting, tied to party lines rather than really knowing the issues. What would you say to that?
That's a great question.
Okay.
Well,
we all... I like to stay informed as I can, and I like to exercise my right to vote, although I haven't yet, so this is all hypothetical, but we've already talked about why.
It's not your fault.
But someone that knows nothing about it, why should they show up on election day to vote? Give me a rebuttal.
I wish I could, but why? I think what it comes down to is we need to change the culture. We need to change the, oh, I don't care culture into a, I do care, because everything that happens is a direct result of what I tell Washington or what I tell my representative or what I tell my Congress to do, because I am the one who puts them there. If I'm not enjoying the way they're going about their business, if I don't like government shutdowns, if I don't like Tea Partiers, if I don't like Democrats, I have the ability, I have the right, and I have a job to get them out of there.
Okay, so speaking again to youth and Gen Y, why do you think people don't care? I mean, there is such a lack of interest in these issues, in politics, in domestic affairs, definitely in international affairs. People say it's because, it doesn't affect me. That's the number one reason that our professors and our parents and our elders give us for why we don't care to learn about these issues. And I don't think that's correct. I think people think it's too hard, or they think it's too boring, and they don't want to learn about it. That would be my reasoning.
I agree.
They don't care because they're Americans. I think, it's a very nationalistic thing. You already care.
I will say, and I'm going to give you an example. There was I read an article from a teacher in, I believe it was Wisconsin, and I read it about a few months ago, and he was saying that, he became a teacher to educate, children and, better future than what he had, that whole night. And what he ended up saying was that children don't want to be taught anymore. They want to be entertained. And teachers who don't entertain are not good teachers because they aren't keeping people's attention. So instead of teaching them what multiplication is, 1 + 1, that's addition, but instead of teaching them what addition is, 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4, they have to entertain them while doing it. They have to play games that show 1 + 1 is 2 and 2 + 2 is 4.
Do you think there's something wrong with that, or do you think that's just where we're moving to and it's okay?
I think that in the long run, what that turns into is politics. Government does not entertain us.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes it's entertaining. Exactly.
But it's not because of his policy.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. And what the teacher ended up saying, I'm not an entertainer, I'm a teacher. And students give me bad,
But how do you take a whole generation of people
and make them care?
And do it differently than electronics, or then I get what you're saying, and entertainment and things like that. How do you take a whole you kind of have to start over. Start with the next generation and say something
to happen politically is it needs to be our turn. I think the only way that our generation would turn the corner of caring and would turn the corner of being an educated electorate and would turn the corner of actually voting would be if it was our turn.
Our turn to serve?
Yeah.
Like our turn. Well.
And I think we're almost there, and I think that's why you're starting to see the youth vote has turned out higher in the last 2 presidential elections than ever before.
Yeah.
And that's what you're starting to see because it's our turn.
So as we get older into this generation and the generation before us phases out in a sense.
I think once you start seeing the retirement,
that's your prediction?
I think once you start seeing the retirement of the McCains, the old wrinkly white man seriously, the old wrinkly white man that has represented this country since the beginning of time, once you start seeing that fade out and you start seeing the black man or the woman or the black woman in
Well, our
office,
generation already identifies more diversely
Exactly.
than the generation before us.
Exactly.
And that's just a product of our environment. There's nothing wrong, good or bad, with that.
exactly.
That just is, that's a fact.
And that's what we'll continue to see. And I think it's overly important that it becomes.
Well, and one
Our
thing I
turn.
will say, too, is that our young people are good with social issues. They can align themselves with social issues, but not fiscal issues, not economic issues. Is that because it's boring and because they don't,
I don't.
it's not fun to learn about?
Fiscally, it's difficult to align more than one person the same. Everybody spends their funds differently. If me and you got a paycheck of $100,
I'd go shopping.
you would you would probably put, and me knowing you, just barely knowing you, as much as I know you, I would say you would put 50 away, and you would use 25 for essentials, and then you'd use 25 for Allie. And
I don't save as much as you think I do.
Okay,
I should.
all right, that's fair. Me, if I got $100, I would use $50 on essentials and $50 on Kenny, and I would have $0
Save zero.
left to spend.
Okay. But again, you've got to present it in a way that people are going to understand it, and I think that's something that's lacking. I mean, I've talked to friends about they want to open up a business venture. They want to start a website that's just for people of our generation, that's going to be news for people of our generation. I think that's doing a disservice. That's saying, sorry, you're too stupid to play with the big dogs, so we're going to give you like the
It's interesting.
juvenile, the elementary version of something that you are capable of understanding. I think it's insulting.
It's difficult, and I will say that not everybody is cut out to understand everything that goes on. The fiscal policy of a nation is very difficult to understand, and not everybody should, I don't think, understand it. I don't think it's possible.
You got your ball, you got your chain tied to me.